I see so many people spend so much time with the numbers.
It came upon a midnight clear.
And more often than not, what I'm seeing is just somebody wasting their time. Here's what I see. I see this on Twitter and Facebook. I see it on email. I see it in lots and lots of places. And maybe though somebody will be talking about black crime and violence, how it's wildly out of proportion. And then some person, with like 6 followers will come in and go, hey, how could you say that? Because then they make up some number, making it look like all the crime in America is committed by black people and by white people, and black people are the victims.
In fear, a chocolate city night.
I think the people who play with the numbers, at least people are trying to use the numbers to convince maybe a sister-in-law at your Christmas dinner, family Christmas dinner, or some person you've never met before, but you just kind of met them on Twitter. You think there's going to be this magic number out there that if you just sprinkle it into a Twitter timeline or onto the comment section of the Washington Post, everybody's just going to stop and go, oh my God, I had no idea it was that bad. Well, I wish that were true. That's not the way the numbers are working out. Most people are in let me rephrase that. So many people are in so much denial, deceit, and delusion about the level and intensity and the quality and quantity of black criminality that they've already decided for themselves they're not going to pay attention to numbers. They're not going to look them up, and if somebody throws them at them, they're just going to say, "Oh, crime has no color, Colin." Doesn't really matter. Besides, at an Ohio State football game 27 years ago, I saw some guy throw a rock at a car. So white people do it too, Colin. So there, I got you, didn't I? Meanwhile, everybody thinks the numbers are like baseball statistics, because baseball is a place where it kind of lends itself to all these numbers, right? I mean, you got people up in the score box. All they're having to decide is, well, was that a single or was that an error? Did the pitcher pick up the ball and throw it over the guy's head? Should that be error on the pitcher or an error on the first baseman? I mean, this is all very clear cut. The crime numbers are not, and everybody thinks they are. I mean, you can, do something to somebody in Chicago, and it's one thing, probably not that serious. Go down to Springfield, Missouri, do the same, and it might be a lot more serious. Chicago Magazine's done a lot of stories on this about the crime numbers in Chicago and how they're constantly fudging them. Yes, even the murders. Yes, the morgues, there's a lot of people in the morgue who, quote unquote, committed suicide when they're really a victim of some homicide, except the people, A, are just not that eager to investigate it, and B, they are eager to show that the crime in Chicago is going down, down, down. I'm not sure why more people don't just take a different approach to the numbers. I take a binary approach. I just want to know, is the level of black criminality up to the point so wildly out of proportion that it is a big problem for everybody in the country? My answer is yes. I mean, it's almost like, I don't have to know within a few percentage points of how, what the burglary rate is for the fellas versus white people. It's not that relevant to me. I just want to know if you're a regular old white guy walking down the middle of the street and there's 100 white people on one side of the street, 100 black people on the other side of the street, where are you more at risk from the people on the white side or the black side? Who is going to be more likely to steal your car, clonk you over the head, rifle your car, do all sorts of bad things, assault you, get whatever? Well, that answer is just crystal clear. And if you don't know it by now, it's only because you don't want to know it. Heather McDonald is always writing books about this, very polite books, saying, well, excuse me, here are the numbers. And, here's what a lot of black people think, but here's the truth in the numbers. And I just don't see, well, I'm glad she's doing these things, and they're great books, and I really like Heather McDonald. But sometimes the stakes here are so high, there's so much violence going on. There's so many people whose lives are being turned upside down because of the denial, deceit, and delusion enfolding this black crime and violence, that I just don't see the numbers being that persuasive anymore. Not unless we just get to a point where we say, yeah, they're up there. You know, if you were walking around outside, if you were thinking about going outside and you looked at your phone and all of a sudden the phone said, oh yeah, it's 150 degrees Fahrenheit outside today. I mean, would you say, hey, I wonder if that's really 140? I wonder if it's really 190? I wonder if it's 130? I mean, would you really say that? Because all those numbers are way too hot. If you go outside in any of those temperatures, you are going to be in serious trouble. And so you just the number gets to a certain point, and you look at it and go, good, I'm staying in, turning on the air conditioning, and just going to do the best I can under these really, really dire circumstances. Well, that's where we are with black crime and violence. The numbers are also wildly out of proportion. Just ask yourself, is it at 1 or a 0? Everybody already knows the answer to that. Even the people, even your liberal sister-in-law at the Christmas family Christmas party. She's not sending her kids into the ghetto to go to school. She and her husband are not going to stop off after your party, go into the ghetto to pick up some barbecue for the way home. They're not going to go to church in the ghetto. They don't get their hair cut down there. On some level, they sense that black people are not really that into white people. They must sense that, because I think a lot of white people don't even consider that at all. They just think that, hey, I'm white. I like black people. Well, why wouldn't they like me? I'm down with the cause. Why wouldn't the cause be down with me? But if you take away that narcissistic view of the world for a minute and step outside of yourself and listen to the fellas and the lovely ladies, just like Hillary Clinton told us to, you'll see they're not really that into us. They don't like us. They don't want anything to do with us. They're always blaming us for stuff we didn't do. They're blaming us for stuff that happens to everybody just in the course of our day-to-day lives, and they're turning it into some big white conspiracy. I mean, I saw 3 cases of this on Friday. You ever hear of a comedian by the name of Wanda Sykes? So Wanda, I guess she brags about the fact that she's a black woman, a lesbian. She's had TV shows. She had a stand-up career there for a while, but I've never seen anything that she did that made me laugh. So now I guess she has something else coming out. She's on the Terry Gross show, Fresh Air. And she's telling Terry about a time she was at, recently, she was at a charity function in Boston where she's talking about Trump and the audience turned against her. So let's see how that little encounter went.
Shoot, that's right. I forgot. I'm a black lesbian female, and they aren't ready for this yet. You know, it's like white guys, sure, go ahead, come on out. You can make fun of it because we see it every night on late night TV. White guys making fun of the president. Okay, yeah, and especially this president, fine. But they weren't ready to see a black woman who's happened to be a lesbian also making fun of the president. And the room, it was 50-50. I mean, like fist fights broke out in the audience.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. It's Boston. Come on. Yeah, I mean, really, it was nuts. It was nuts. People were doing the Heil Hitler move. I heard N-words. I heard, then you hear other people, telling them to shut up and all.
Wow, white people do it too. White comedians make fun of Trump. Why can't I? How'd you like that where Wanda's talking about the white people standing up there giving Sieg Heil salutes, dropping N-bombs? A room full of very rich white people. Everybody has camera phones. And not one person took out a camera phone and recorded that. Strange. But Wanda was just warming up on her white blaming, white splaining thing. So in Wanda's private life, which she talks about on stage, she's married to a white woman from France. They have 2 kids, 2 white kids. Wanda is explaining how she gets very uncomfortable around white people.
So your wife is French. She's white. Mm-hmm. You have 2 children who are white. Mm-hmm. And you joke about how you're living in a house with white people and you're a minority in your own home. So that's very funny, but I'm sure there's some truth to that too. Is it unusual for you to be in your own home and be like the racial minority in your own family?
It is. It feels weird when I think about it. But now when it's just just the four of us, then if I don't think I think of it then, but it's like when her family is there, or we have a bunch of friends over. I do kind of look around and I go, man, there's a lot of white people in my house right now. Wow. And it's not like I don't like it or it makes me uncomfortable. It's just I noticed it, and it's like, wow, okay. And sometimes I'll call a friend like, hey, man, what you doing? You want to come over? And he goes, what, you got too many white people in your house? I'm like, yeah, yep.
I guess she's thinking she's being a good interviewer, a guest on the show. And Terry Gross, of course, is going to play along going, oh, that's very funny. But here's the fact. So many fellas, so many lovely ladies are so full of hostility and resentment towards white people. They can't even contain it during a 40-minute national radio show where millions of people will hear it. And she's even talking about how she's uncomfortable around her own family members for one reason only. Take a guess what that is. Here's the thing. Wanda Sykes doesn't like white people. Hey, I couldn't care less. But here's why we're pushing back so hard, is because every day we turn on the television and the radio and look at the newspapers and all the different websites, and we see the dominant narrative of our age, which is white racism and black victimization. That's all we see. That's the dominant thing from the fellas and the lovely ladies. And there's it's overwhelming to go on NPR and just talk about this black on white hostility as if it's just something that everybody knows about. Like the weather, everybody talks about it. Nobody does anything about it.
Being black is exhausting.
Wanda wasn't the only fella and lovely lady out spreading the gospel of racial resentment. This all happened on Friday, just a couple days ago. There's a woman named, what's her name? Gabrielle Union. Does that name ring a bell to anybody? So she's married to a basketball player by the name of Dwayne Wade. Anyway, so she got hired last year to be a judge on a show called America's Got Talent. Now, I looked up her, her show business credentials. She's been in like 15 movies. I've never seen any of her movies. I don't even know anybody who's ever seen any of her movies. But they decided, for one reason or for reasons of their own, they were going to put her on that panel and let her be the judge. Now, one of the things I think this is the same show Howard Stern was on, and one of the things I kind of got from Howard on that is that everybody tries to talk happy about it, but when you have four big time entertainers splitting up a very small amount of time, no, they're not that happy with that because they're kind of like narcissists, most of them. So it's like every time somebody else, including the guests, including the people that are supposed to have talent, anytime anyone is talking except for Gabrielle Union, she doesn't like that because everybody on this planet, not just the audience of that show, everybody on the planet should be listening to every single word she says as if it were a little piece of gold. And when it didn't turn out that way, when the producers of that show came out and said, hey, you know what? Let's just call it quits. We're going to fire a couple of judges, get a few more in there. And so, hey, thanks for helping us out, but adios, amigo. So according to Variety, Gabrielle Union, who is black, believes she was fired because she had asked NBC and the show's producers to address an environment that tolerated racist jokes and remarks, including what she said were multiple notes from producers saying she was wearing her hair too black for the America's Got Talent audience. We're going to hear one more of these stories from Friday, but it's really weird. It's like you invite somebody to be your charity banquet. You invite somebody, you pay them a lot of money to be on your panel at America's Got Talent, and it's almost like they're a viper in your nest. I'm thinking of that young lady from Yale. We talked about her about 6 months ago or so, maybe a year ago. She works on the student newspaper up there. She did a column and she did a YouTube video basically saying, hey, Yale students, I'm putting you all on notice. 15, 20, 25, 30 years from now, when you guys all start appearing in front of congressional committees to become doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, and judges, I'm going to show up to say what a lousy person you were, how you abused your white privilege, how you didn't recognize my black moral superiority when we were at Yale together, and I'm going to ruin your life. I mean, is that like what people who run these big institutions now have to live with every day? I mean, Wanda Sykes goes to a charity banquet. All of a sudden, she says everybody that supports the charity is a Nazi. Gabrielle Union, her TV show, just a bunch of racists. And then we got this guy named Orlando Bloom. If that name sounds a little familiar, I think this is I'm kind of dating myself, but he's the fella that was on a 7-Up commercial. I forget what he said, but I think he had kind of a deep, booming voice, and I don't know, maybe it was kind of a Caribbean scene where everybody drinking 7-Up was having a whole lot of fun. Anyway, he's on this show. Has anybody heard of this show called American Gods? So many shows out now. I mean, even the critics can't keep up with all the shows. Anyway, so Mr. Bloom is on the show called American Gods. He plays some character. You're going to hear his name in a minute. Same thing. He was on there for 2 seasons. The 3rd season they just said, hey, we're going in a different direction. Thanks. Goodbye. And this guy's just like Wanda Sykes, just like Gabrielle Union and her husband Dwayne Wade. They just cannot imagine how anybody could not recognize the unbelievable, incredible, undeniable brilliance emanating from these people. Just because they're black and because you're white, you don't see it.
September 10th, 2018, I was fired from American Gods. There will be no more Mr. Nancy. Don't let these motherfuckers tell you they love Mr. Nancy. They don't. I'm not going to name names, but the new season 3 showrunner is Connecticut born and Yale educated, so he's very smart. And he thinks that Mr. Nancy's angry, get shit done is the wrong message for black America. That's right. This white man sits in that decision-making chair, and I'm sure he has many black BFFs who are his advisors and made it clear to him that if they did not get rid of that angry God, Mr. Nancy, he'd start a Denmark VC uprising in this country. I mean, what else could it be?
True to Roof came up with a great line the other day. He said, the fellas and lovely ladies like to take credit for everything, but responsibility for nothing. And so while Gabrielle and Wanda and Paul, Orlando Bloom are out there telling the world, screaming at the world that, pay attention to me because I'm a genius, the fellas around the rest of the world, they may or may not be saying that, but they are just taking care of business the same way they've always taken care of business, with crime and violence wildly out of proportion. We did something Thursday and Friday, and both days it was like, wow, this is now a thing. Fellas are using cars to disable people so they can get out and rob them and now even rape them.
This is every parent's worst nightmare.
What 23-year-old Larry Ward is now convicted of will make your stomach turn. We were there back in 2016 after Ward hit an 11-year-old walking to Jeter Middle School with his SUV, forcing her inside, threatening to kill her, then raping her. The child found crying on the side of the road by a woman who called police. Ward pleaded guilty to the brutal crime, choosing a judge to decide his sentence. 3 witnesses testified at the sentencing hearing. The state believing overall Ward should serve 71 years in prison, consecutively for the various charges he was convicted of, while his attorney argued 35. Ultimately, Judge Jennifer Johnson Mitchell decided on 40 years, a number the victim's family did not want to hear.
They are not doing well. They left in tears. They're very distraught.
I'm really pleased of the outcome and that he didn't put the family through the heartache of a trial in a matter like this.
Following the judge's ruling, attorney Devin Dennis with the Shelby County District Attorney's Office reiterated Ward's criminal history, saying he's a danger to the community. also a liability in jail, where he's been written up 20 times. The judge responded the court heard no proof there was no hesitation about committing the crime, at which the risk to human life is high, saying she would not sentence him consecutively.
Given this man's age, he is going to be getting out at age 63 and could still present a huge danger to the community.
I think this one's also, this is the second one we've seen from Memphis. So this one just went to trial, and we got a fella using his car to knock down and incapacitate a 16-year-old white girl on her way to school. What a piece of work is man. How noble and reason. There's a lot of other great lines to that little soliloquy from Hamlet. How terrific people can be. But I don't think the fellas and lovely ladies are really into Hamlet that much. They're a hell of a lot more, well, let's just keep going on our little car crime thing going on here. Why don't we go down to, I think this is Albuquerque. Yeah, we're going to meet a real piece of work down there.
Albuquerque woman who punched a police officer in the face before stealing her squad car was in court today as prosecutors argued she's a one-woman wrecking crew who needs to stay locked up. News 13's Jeannie Nguyen is here with the judge's decision. Jeannie?
Dean, prosecutors say Marqueta Rivera put a lot of people in danger last week when she attacked the officer and stole her car. During her detention hearing today at district court, Rivera seemed to disagree that she's a problem.
The officers approached her when she was stopping in traffic and laying in the street on Lomas. And that's dangerous, if not to any other drivers who may try and swerve around her, causing further accidents.
Cell phone video captured Rivera punching an officer, then making off with her police unit on Lomas near Wyoming last week. Also mentioned in court today, Rivera's battery charges from a February case. Police say she randomly hit a group of people in her car while downtown. She was released on pretrial services for that case when she picked up these new charges last week. That's why the DA's office asked the judge to keep her locked up until trial. But Rivera's attorney argued she can be trusted while out of jail.
She's not had a felony conviction. She's presumed innocent. She still has a place to live. And I would argue that the court, with pretrial supervision, if you wanted some type of GPS monitoring.
Judge Christina Jaramillo ultimately agreed with prosecutors and decided Rivera needs to stay behind bars. Rivera does not have a trial date yet for attacking the police officer and stealing her car. Dean, back to you.
Okay, Jeannie, thank you. Rivera was also arrested last year after she trashed a leasing office at an apartment complex, destroying the furniture and tipping over a 60-gallon fish tank.
Well, you better watch out and you better not cry if they knock you out when you're walking by. Fellas are coming to town. Well, you're being a fool if you try to be nice, betting your life on the roll of the dice. Fellas are coming to town. They'll visit when you're sleeping, impose when you're awake. I'd rather live on Jupiter or sleep with a rattlesnake. Listen to this little lullaby. High percent chance that you're gonna die. Fellas are coming to town. If you hear on the news that they called the Marines to stop a big fight with a lot of teens, fellas are coming to town. Don't wait for your family to suffer attack. Pack up your shit and never look back. Fellas are coming to town. Well, we just need us some mentors to help out with our youth. Doctors, lawyers, astronauts coming to a town near you. You better get out if you're white while you still have the legal right. Fellas are coming to town. Oh, fellas are coming to town. Oh, fellas are coming to town.
Oh, yeah. So they said she used a car to run through some people in an intersection. If you get the video to that, as I did, you blow it up and you look at it, you could see that she tried to run over a whole group of white people. Coincidence? The world's biggest coincidence. Well, here's another car story. Couple of teens kill a cop with a car.
We have just received pictures of two teens accused of hitting and killing an officer in North Mississippi. Jonathan Taylor and Darian Dogan are facing felony murder counts. Now, typically, Fox 13, we do not identify children. However, both teens are going to be charged as adults. Ray Hawkins is a constable in Panola County. Police say he was responding to a report of a car chase with a stolen vehicle. He collided with that stolen vehicle in Mississippi Highway 35. Hawkins started his career at the Batesville Police Department in 1990. He is survived by one son, who was also a police officer, and again, he was one of the first people on the scene on Thursday.
Teens are black. The cop is white. Cops are the tip of the spear on this. They see so much black bullshit every day. Same day in and day out. Let's head on over to a rape case. There's been a bunch of argy-bargy going on in Brooklyn. The fellas have been targeting Jewish people. And every time it happens, it just happened in Jersey City, the Jewish people stand up and go, that's really terrible that happened. We've got to stop this. And not one of them will stand up and say, you know what? Black people are targeting Jewish people. I don't know why they won't. I don't know what kind of cowardice would motivate you to give black people a pass for visiting this incredible level of violence on Jewish people. But it's happening up there every day. And every day the Jewish people, the Jewish leaders up there like Dov Hovkind, he just looks around and goes, I guess it's just a coincidence that they're all fellas. And I'm waiting for the women to do the same thing, because black on white rape is a thing in this country. White on black rape is not. And black on senior citizen rape is a thing. And white on senior citizen rape is not. And I'm waiting for one of these brainiacs who likes to go on MSNBC and or on some little book show and talk to people about intersectionality, how this race and sex, how they have intersections where we all meet in the middle and discuss how much white people, especially white dudes, really suck. I'm waiting for one of them to figure out that this rape is so wildly out of proportion on so many levels.
Hey, so we are not identifying this woman in her very raw and emotional interview. She says she's telling her story and hopes that this suspect is caught.
But he threatened to kill me the whole time he had that knife on me.
This is a computer image of the man police are looking for. He has curly hair with a white streak down the center. In late November, they say he went to the victim's home on the 2300 block of Toro. Investigators say the man knocked on her front door asking for someone who did not live there. Police say he forced his way in with a steak knife.
He was going to kill me. So after one point in time, I told him, I said, well, just kill me. Because I done told him the truth. I told him, I said, just kill me there, because I can't go no more. I told you the truth, just kill me there.
The woman says he then sexually assaulted her.
He told me, he said, take off your clothes. He said, take your dress off. And I took my dress off.
The woman says she was forced to lay on the ground as the suspect left with her money and car keys. The handicapped woman says she crawled to another room and was eventually able to call for help. She says her walker and cane was in her car. Now she has no car and no way to get around.
Can't go to my doctor's appointment. I can't go to church. Those are my two number one priority, church and doctor. I can't do anything. You know, I feel trapped.
But despite feeling so trapped, she somehow finds it in her heart to forgive this man.
I'm going to let this man stop me from moving on.
For a long time, says the Huffington Post, black women were trained at an early age to protect the race at all costs. This is just a couple months ago. There were similar sentiments in a video on the Griot or the Root, and also in the New York Times. They're talking about this tsunami of rape, usually by and among black people. And the people in the stories, they're just giving this long-winded explanation as to why black women don't report rape. And there's just one after another. My favorite came from Melissa Harris Perry, who said that the reason why black women do not report their men for rape is because they know the kind of racist abuse that white cops are going to put their men through that they decide not to report. So these crimes just keep happening over and over and over and over. And every once in a while, it spills out from the black neighborhoods into the white neighborhoods. Yeah, Eldridge Cleaver wrote about that in detail, how he practiced on black chicks, and then when he knew he got kind of good at it, he and his buddy would drive around in the white neighborhoods and rape white girls because he thought that was a revolutionary, an insurrectionary act, a way to really rub white people's faces in it and the way they would hate. So anyway, there is one person, I don't know if she's going to do this or not, but here's what the rumor is. They say Oprah is going to do one of these Me Too specials. And she's going to be talking about all these guys like Russell Simmons. He's a big lifestyle and fit and music guru who it turns out has a lot of women chasing him around going, yeah, you raped me. Now before, again, it was just like, oh, hey, it's a black guy. You don't want to ruin the rest of his life, do you? You're not going to judge him by the worst thing he ever did, are you? Yeah, ministers say this kind of stuff. College presidents say this kind of stuff. That's how it's ending up in court. So anyway, 50 Cent, the big rapper 50 Cent, he got all pissed off last week and he started yelling at Oprah for doing this story about black men, mostly black men, and at least in Oprah's new production, it's going to be about mostly black men who are harassing women, the Me Too movement. On December the 12th, says this one news clip, 50 Cent took to social media to accuse Oprah Winfrey of only targeting black men who have been accused of sexual assault. His comments are believed to be in response to Winfrey's recently announced documentary that will focus on allegations against Russell Simmons. Back to 50 Cent. I don't understand why Oprah is going after black men. No Harvey Weinstein, no Epstein, just Michael Jackson and Russell Simmons. This shit is sad. I mean, I didn't know. So I guess because I'm an old fuddy-duddy now, I didn't know there were still people out there who A, thought Michael Jackson was black, and B, who thought Michael Jackson was not one of the great criminal child molesters of the 20th century. So I guess I better start keeping up on my current events. 50 Cent went on to say that documentaries centered around assault accusations are unfair, as they are publicly convict their targets before they even get a trial. The documentaries are publicly convicting their targets, and it makes them guilty until they were proven innocent. Next day, 50 Cent doubled down on Oprah. I just want to know why she's only going after her own when it is clear that the penalties have been far more extreme for African American men. Is that clear? Is that clear? It's not clear to me. Clear to me that black people do a hell of a lot more crime and a lot nastier crime. But every time they do one of these studies where they do apples to apples and they show white people, black people committing the same crime with the same record, turns out that white people actually get a little bit of a longer term. Now here's 50 Cent. He's taking up the role, so 50 Cent knows what the drill is. The black women don't want to turn the men in. Oh yeah, all three of those stories I was talking about, when the women are going, yeah, I didn't know, we don't turn the men in, we don't turn them in, we don't turn black men in. You go down the road a couple minutes in the documentary or whatever, and they come out and they say, yeah, well, here's why, because black men learned how to do it on the slave ships coming over. So all this black crime, violence, and sexual violence and rape is really a white thing, and white people are to blame. You know, I don't give anybody credit for logic there, but I give full marks for being disingenuous on an almost brilliant level. So the fellas are not happy that some of these ladies at the intersection of sex and race are starting to look around and go, hey, 50 Cent, hey, Russell Simmons, what are you doing at this intersection? Yeah, this is for women and this is for men who do not go around abusing women and then lie their ass off about it. All right, let's head over to Sheepheads Bay. This is in Staten Island, I think. And it almost sounds so trivial. It sounds kind of trivial. It's just going to be a bunch of black people who beat the crap out of another person. Everybody lived. People lost their backpacks. The reason I'm including it here, I just want to remind you that this is happening every day in these cities around the country. It's not just once a day. It's happening multiple times in each of these big cities, or as some people would call them, urban areas.
This morning with 12 on Crime, as police need your help identifying a group of teens who allegedly robbed another teen in Sheepshead Bay. We're told that back on December 5th, the 6 teenagers seen here went up to a 17-year-old boy in front of a NYCHA complex on Avenue X. They started talking with him and then started to punch and kick the victim, leading to a broken nose. We're told the suspects made off with his backpack, which contained 2 pairs of shoes.
And I keep begging. Everybody keeps asking, begging, and pleading for the videos. Where are the white people doing this? And we're always assured that there are 1 billion videos, but every one of the thousands of fellas and lovely ladies who has promised to produce the videos of white people doing it too, they just never quite get around to it. Here's a story out of Chicago. This is a criminal justice reform story. Prosecutors, says the headline, man robbed 5 victims in 10 days before Thanksgiving while on parole for 2 armed robberies. So the dude was going around with a gun, stealing purses and iPhones and all that stuff in Chicago. It is what it is. When they caught him, they found out that in the year 2015, he had been convicted of 2 armed robberies, and they gave him 2 9-year sentences. Now it says run concurrently, not consecutively. So consecutively would have meant, you have to serve your sentence is 18 years. Then we'll, start bargaining from there. But this guy got 2 concurrent 9-year sentences. And because he was behaving himself in prison, they reduced his sentence by 50% a couple years after he's convicted of 2 armed robberies. He's back on the street, and a couple months later, he's out there doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. New word from Wanda Sykes, what she thinks of that kind of psychotic behavior. Okay, let's just go through a couple of more criminal things. Again, these are things that are just happening. A guy who worked for a cable company is accused of stabbing an 83-year-old woman to death down in Irving, Texas. Just a black guy, had a uniform on, cable company, goes in and robs, rapes, and kills an 83-year-old white woman. And don't worry, that is just normal. All right, so if you think the cable guy is normal or somehow it's not his fault, just like Wanda and Gabrielle Union and 50 Cent and Orlando Bloom, it's not my fault, man. They just picking on me because I'm black. Then you're going to love these 2 geniuses from Mobile, Alabama. They went into a professor's home, a white professor, and they killed him.
Both 20 years old, both facing a charge of felony murder in the death of University of South Alabama professor Dr. Matthew Weiser.
Is there anything you would like to say?
Dead silence from Tyquez Timmons as he was escorted to a patrol car before being taken to Metro Jail. His alleged partner in crime, Derek Scott, not so quiet.
They're saying that you killed this professor.
I bet, bro. I don't know what y'all talking about.
So you're saying they got the wrong guy?
I don't know what y'all talking about.
According to Mobile Police Chief Lawrence Batiste, the 2 killed Dr. Weiser in his home on Gaillard Road. Weiser discovered shot to death by campus police who were doing a welfare check.
Anybody up for a couple of public transportation stories? Maybe they're not quite as bad as murder, but they're way more common.
A Wake County arrest warrant shows a Burlington man is behind bars Thursday, accused of taking his penis completely out of his pants on a Go Raleigh bus and forcing himself on a female rider. 37-year-old Christopher Eugene McDade is charged with second-degree kidnapping, assault on a female, sexual battery, and indecent exposure. He was arrested on Wednesday. According to the warrant, McDade is accused of physically restraining the woman from getting off the bus and pushing her. After pushing her, the warrant says McDade had, quote, his penis displayed and pushed himself onto the victim, not allowing her to leave the bus. Now, McDade had his, quote, penis completely out of his pants on the Go Raleigh bus, according to the warrant. He is currently being held in the Wake County Detention Center under a $50,000 secured bond.
And here's a headline out of CWB Chicago. Man sexually molested girl on the Brown Line train in Lakeview, cops say. But then the paper goes on to give them a bunch of grief because the cops aren't releasing a picture of the offender. CWB actually goes on and identifies this guy as a black girl, and he was indeed molesting a white girl on the way to school. That's just a thing now. Yeah, there was a guy on the bus molesting a white girl, but the white girl was giving him a Nazi salute and dropping N-bombs on him, so I guess it's all good, isn't it? Here's something we've done. We could do this all the time, too. Guy takes a little stroll out on the Katy Trail in Dallas. Listen to the very last thing in this segment for a little bit of news you can use.
A 69-year-old man was attacked, bloodied, and beaten while taking his daily walk along the Katy Trail Friday morning. Philip Brown says he was blindsided when a man who may be homeless came out of nowhere and attacked him. Brown has a broken jaw, nose, and eye socket. Fox 4's David Santendri is live along the Katy Trail after speaking to Brown, who was just released from the hospital a few hours ago. David.
Yeah, he was just released from that hospital, Natalie, and he was telling me that he was taking his daily walk along this Katy Trail when out of nowhere he was ambushed, punched in the side of the face, and then to make matters worse, when he was on the ground, he says this man jumped on top of him and was repeatedly punching him over and over while shouting curse words. He didn't get a great look at him, but he's hoping police do. A 69-year-old man was randomly attacked while walking along the Katy Trail in Dallas Friday morning.
I didn't even see him coming at me.
Philip and Leslie Brown typically walk the trail together.
I would have just kicked and fought like crazy. And I would have jumped on it.
But on this day, Philip went alone.
I kept telling everybody around, call 911, call 911, call 911.
He says he was passing the popular Katy Trail Ice House when a man approached him from the side and punched him while screaming curse words.
Well, one thing I thought was, I don't have my pistol with me.
He left his pistol at home. Why did you do that? Why? Why would you do that? You know, on the video, you could see that he has cameras around his house. And you see, just a couple nights before he was attacked in the park, there's a fella in the park, not in the park, in his driveway, holding a French knife. And then when he sees the garage door goes up, he either got startled or scared and he took off. That's Dallas. Oh yeah, they're definitely full on into criminal justice reform in Dallas. That means you have to forget your gun less. You have to remember it more. Let's head on over to St. Louis. It's just a bunch of fellas going crazy in a mall in St. Louis, okay? I mean, I swear it's like that happens so often in St. Louis, I don't even want to bore you guys with it. But again, listen to the final words in this, and you'll know why I put it there.
Police in Richmond Heights are working to solve a shooting at the Galleria Mall. Police say the victim was shot earlier today during an apparent robbery in the mall's parking garage. News 4's Benton Blandon brings us new details.
Crowded mall 11 days before Christmas. Shoppers carrying bags, people sharing space. Police investigating a shooting inside Galleria Mall.
This just further underscores
that we are in a new space as it relates to crime and violence.
Richmond Heights police answered a call around lunchtime Saturday for a shooting. Officers arrived, learned the man was robbed and shot in the parking garage, and he ran into a lids store asking for help. James Clark, a well-known community activist, believes this shooting proves more action is needed to help stop crime regionally.
We have got to stop studying it. We have got to stop analyzing it. We know that the root cause of violence is poverty.
Yeah, there's the obligatory community organizer reminding all the white people this whole black violence stuff isn't going to ever change because it's all being caused by poverty. White racism causes black poverty, don't you know? And nobody's ever going to suggest on any level that maybe it's the crime that causes the poverty and not the other way around. Yes, I'm poor. That's why I had to take a Glock 9mm handgun into a shopping center and start shooting the place up. Poverty did that to me, Colin. Haven't you ever seen Charles Dickens, Colin? Tale of Two Great Expectations. Poor kids, pickpockets, the whole thing. About Elvis movie, Elvis song. We haven't changed our thoughts on this whole thing since Elvis and Mac Davis collaborated on The Ghetto. On a cold and gray Chicago morn, another little baby child is born in the ghetto. That's it. We've been running the entire world on that line from that song for the last 50-some years. When are people going to figure out that's not really working for us anymore? Well, maybe the only thing that's stopping people from figuring that out is the fact that if you do figure it out and say something about it, that will definitely make the black kids angry.
It came upon a midnight clear, a 500 juvenile fight. It happened every week this year, a chocolate city night. There's some who say they won't live here, but they're racist and too uptight. The citizens all hide in fear, a chocolate city night. The public subway is suicide, a criminal's delight. Make peace with God, don't go outside, a chocolate city night. But you be safe as long as you don't stop at a traffic light. Upstanding citizens cower and